monthly bank reconciliation. Proposal to approve and sign the monthly bank reconciliation notes and monthly reports. So, anybody? Sean?
Oh, just a couple of queries. Who are ANG Artilia Group for Town Hall valuation?
They're the ANG are the company who do the refurbishment for the town hall.
They're the builders.
The builders.
Okay, brilliant. And the Baines contribution to HAS years 3 and 4. 20,000. That's.
Oh yes, that is a bit of a history because it was before obviously my time and Katie's time. When it's a really funny way of doing it. When the town hall refurbishment started, the town council matched funds £30,000 towards the funding. They'd had already paid 10,000. This is the extra 20. But then we get it back again when they pay the invoices. So this is weird. But it was match funded, so we've had to pay them the 20,000, and then we put in a claim for 20,000, and they give it back.
Right. Okay.
It was before Katie and I's time, so
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
okay with it.
All Sean?
That'll do.
Yeah. Anybody else? Got any
Are
questions?
you happy with the bank reconciliation?
Yeah.
Oh, could I just say, well done. Not very often you get a bank reconciliation where you've got no unpresented payments and unpresented receipts, so obviously keeping on top of everything, so yeah, well done.
Right, so that's done. Item number 6, review of following policies before adopting by full council. Dispensation policy and the civility respect councillor officer protocol.
I'm starting to go back on the policies because obviously I was busy with budgets and stuff, so the policies are going to start making an appearance again. This is because you have councillors given them a chance to have a dispensation, and you didn't have a policy, so it's a policy that if you requested dispensation.
We did have a policy at some point, because I remember previously reading through the interesting flowchart diagram. So I don't know what happened to it, but we definitely did have one.
But all your policies need redoing because they hadn't been reviewed for at least 2 or 3 years.
Oh, 100% agrees it needs to be reviewed.
So
but we did have one, but I'm happy with the current one.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think there might be a paragraph missing when you compare it with other town councils' dispensation policies that say the same thing. And the thing that kind of like tweaked me onto this is that actually in the policy that we've got, it doesn't actually say who's responsible for giving the dispensations. Now that can be the town council or it can be the town clerk. So I thought, I wonder if there's something not right here. And I did find an almost identical policy from Amble Town Council and identified that there was literally just a section missing, and that it actually overcame a page change, so it's not surprising. So I'm just wondering, Kate, if that is the case.
Probably might have been.
But obviously we do need to have agree who's going to decide the dispensations.
I think in the standing orders, don't quote me on this, but I think in the standing orders in generally it's your proper officer who gives the dispensation.
Well, we have it on the town council agenda, which would suggest that it's the town council. But the section that's missing, if I could just pass this over to you, this is the policy I have. It's the section 4, consideration by the town council, and I think there's it says section 3, process for making request. Other than that, it's absolutely identical. But section 3, process for making request, then it has section 4, consideration by town council. After that, it's then exactly the same again. So I just literally think there's a piece been omitted.
Which
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Well, a bit of 3 and a bit of 4. Now I'm going to say I haven't actually bought with me. I thought I'd printed it all out. I've got the members and officers printed. I've got that bit.
That says process for making requests. We've got procedure for making requests, haven't we? Any councillor who wishes to apply. So that's the same. So it starts off, doesn't it?
So, I've forgotten the one page about it.
I don't know, that 3 seems similar to what we've got in that bit.
Alright.
And then consider advice of the town council, so it's this bit, isn't it?
We've already got to.
It's flowchart, yeah.
It's quite a good fun, isn't it? It's like snakes and ladders.
Is that 3?
I think all balls back
Process
to
for making requests. We've got procedure for making requests. Any council who wishes to apply.
There's lots
But it says-
if you've got financial.
So what was it? So you're saying it is not in there who allows it?
It's not in our policy, and for what it appears, it's just a small section.
It says any councillor who wishes to apply for a dispensation must, if possible, complete and submit a dispensation form to the town clerk at least 2 working days before the
Yeah,
meeting.
that's not the bit I'm referring to. Have you
Right,
got
so
a
it's
copy
4.
about missing?
No, I haven't.
Because I haven't got a policy about
Number 4 there, is that one? Right.
Yeah, it's and then you've got the agenda format. It's the first bit. It says a decision will be taken at a town council meeting. The town council may grant a dispensation.
Well, I'll need to check the standing orders, because I think in the standing orders, and in normal cases, it's normally the proper officer who gives the dispensation.
Yeah, I recognise that. But yeah, but it is that bit.
Just that one.
Yeah, so if you hang on to that, that's it.
So therefore propose it be deferred and come back again.
Does that mean second?
That's the proposal.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay.
I mean, one thing we need to look at when we start looking at dispensation is we need more clarity on what determines a conflict of interest in the first place.
Okay.
Within a town council environment, it's clear it's much clearer in Baines, but that town council, everything's a bit closer. So, for example, if you're a trustee of, I don't know, the community trust, do you have to declare a conflict of interest if we're discussing a budget or a grant payment to the community trust? I suspect the answer is yes, but then I suspect the answer would be you would then get a dispensation because you're not benefiting yourself personally from the fund or the grant. But it's just understanding that side of things as to what we consider to be a declaration of interest.
Yeah,
I think that's a really good point because I'm aware of the fact as I'm on the community trust.
Me too.
That's an issue. Now, as far as I understand from the standing orders, I've asked Baines for this and they haven't got back to me on it, but in our declarations of interests, we have stated our interests, and I think we have an automatic dispensation for anything that we've stated, but we should still mention it at the beginning of the meeting. I think that's the rule.
No, you don't have the only automatic dispensation you have that you don't need to mention is for the precept, because it affects everybody.
Right,
And if you had a town council planning application, like for the town hall.
Right.
So it might be worth just looking at some clarification on that aspect, just because we don't get picked up at some point that grants being awarded or so either within the community trust and everything like that, or even outside bodies and outside groups. We want to make sure it's
So I know in the past when we've had grant applications, people who've been involved with that group in some way, their children have mentioned that, haven't they?
Yeah,
But
so
you're
if the
trusted.
cadets, we gave money to the cadets for a grant, but somebody here had got their children in the cadets, then they would have to
Yes.
say,
But also I think one of the areas where clarity really is required is this whole business of trustees, because if you are a trustee, I think part of the issue as to whether it's actually a pecuniary or a personal interest is whether or not you're in a position of managerial control. Is that right, Kate, where you're discussing if you're in a position of managerial control as a trustee and you control the finances and you make the decisions on the finances, then that's different from just being on.
Right.
Yeah, that's a
Using
that's a huge, I can't
Yeah.
say, because that's finance.
Yeah.
It's so if you because we tend to use these in planning applications. So if you had a house next door, if you lived in a house and the house next door was having, an extension, and that would affect the value of your house, that's a pecuniary interest because it's a financial. So if you were, we all wear different hats. So if I'm the treasurer of the village hall, not here, but if they came to you for a grant, if I was a councillor, I would have to say I'm the treasurer of the village hall. Yeah. But if I was just as a member of the committee, then it's slightly. So if I was the treasurer, I really should step out of the room and not being part of it at all. But if I was a committee member, I could have an option to take part and vote or discuss.
So in terms of committee trustee, it's Alex, or who has the authority to spend and allocate the money. So it all goes through him, and then he doesn't do the finances, does he? Sharon does the finances, so that a conflict wouldn't arise. Is there something there that we could add to the? Suggest we could add to the.
I suspect it probably have to come back as a separate agenda item. Wouldn't
Next,
it?
it will be on the next F&O as another item.
Right.
I was trying to get this through before the end of the year, but that's fine.
Okay, so that's that one. So we're deferring the.
I'm going to defer it to the next F&O because your full council is looking rather full anyway.
Okay.
So I don't really want to add anything else to your full council.
Just one other option about interests, because obviously one of the things that we don't deal with is dual-hatted. And sometimes there are interests there. Now, one of the ways that councils have done it in the past is they've actually written things into their standing orders. And they've also written in the whole business about the precept and said all councillors have an automatic dispensation. So you could actually, Kate, consider actually putting a clause in the standing orders. And then if you also wanted to say, all dual-hatted councillors also have a automatic dispensation for discussion, because for instance, some of these things like, us paying bains and this, that and the other, potentially there could be a conflict of interest there.
Well, the standing orders will be coming for review because they have to be done every year at the council meeting on the 8th of May. And they will probably go out to you, well, I will try, I can't promise, about 2 weeks before, because at the town council you have to review the standing orders, your financial regulations, and those three you have to do every year. The others you can do as and when.
Okay, so
Defer to
we'll
next
move on.
meeting.
Yeah, so move on to councillor officer protocol. Anybody got any points?
I like it.
Yeah, good.
I think it's
So do
a worthwhile addition.
Yeah.
But we've had that since the beginning, haven't we?
I don't know if we've had that one specifically, but we certainly did training at one point which discuss all of those things.
But yeah, that looks good. Yeah.
My only question was because this is a really good document, and I think it's very worthwhile. But I am aware that the councils have moved on somewhat towards civility and respect. So I just wanted to check that it's not in opposition to anything that's going on with the new civility and respect.
No, they adopted the civility. The town council adopted civility and respect. They've actually done it twice. They did it about a year ago, and then they did it again a few months later.
Okay.
So they have opted to the national civility, the non-civility and respect, and we have a certificate. I have no idea what the number is, but we do have a certificate. So this is on the back of that.
Okay.
I was going to say that I think I didn't realise this at the time, but that councillor officer protocol is part of the civility and respect programme, I guess, that's advocated by NOG. So it's part of the same thing. So, but I know it's difficult reading things, but it's worthwhile document to read through because it really sort of explains the relationship councillors should have between each other and with the staff, which I think helps everybody.
Yeah. Good. So we have a proposer?
You don't
No, we
actually
don't need
need to
to.
propose and second everything. There's only certain things like the budget,
Okay.
chair election, most things you just have to just resolve.
Right.
Show of hands and I can
Right.
just put resolve.
So we vote to
So
resolve.
we're suggesting full council adopt it,
Yes.
is that?
Yeah.
It will go to full council to be adopted.
Okay. Good. Item. Item 7,
I'll
proposal for a contribution for the deputy clerk to study the community governance. Cheryl?
So I'd like to propose that we move the standing order, whichever one it is. Standing order 10.11 to exclude the press and public from the meeting, because I do feel that this is a matter pertaining to a member of staff, and that therefore, beg your pardon, is this the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that therefore this should be discussed under confidential business.
Sorry.
Gordon, sorry.
Well, I'd like to propose that
Doesn't need to be. It doesn't actually need to be. This doesn't need to be under private confidential because it's. I'm asking you. I am asking if you would pay for some training. It's in your budget, and it's and it's open and transparency to say that you're paying to come with the clerks. I'm quite happy for it not to be private.
Well, I'd like to propose.
I'd like to
no, sorry. I'd like to propose, having been in the situation a few times, that it's deferred to the staffing committee to be discussed with the clerk, who ultimately is in charge of all staffing matters. And I feel that the staffing committee was set up specifically to deal with issues like
This
this.
is a great idea. We want our staff to be as trained and as capable as possible. I don't understand why anyone's putting barriers up in the way of actually just agreeing this and moving on.
Because having had various issues in the past regarding staffing, I think it's really
Staffing. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's the sort of thing
Staffing.
that
This is going to get bounced around. Staffing can't make financial decisions. So if it goes to staffing, they'll say yes or no. If they say yes, it will then go to finance. If I have actually already started it, I started it 2 weeks ago, and the first payment is due the 1st of April.
Okay. Well, I still propose it's discussed with the staffing committee, with the clerk, who's, as far as I'm concerned, head of all staffing and training for the entire council. So I feel that's why it should be deferred to the staffing committee to make a recommendation to council if they're not allowed to resolve it within their own delegated right.
I don't agree. I'm not supporting that. It's
John Shaw.
it's training. It's something to be budgeted for. Only about weeks ago we discussed it and we added it into the budget. We knew this was coming. We put it in the budget. It's staff training. It's not salary. It's not income. It's training the staff.
I do have questions to ask that I don't feel it would be appropriate to ask in public business, and I also feel that it isn't just about staff training, because if you read our training policy, it affects salary, and we don't have that information here to make that decision.
Sorry, this is not related to salary.
It is, if you read our training.
How is it related to salary?
Because if this training is awarded, and obviously if the deputy clerk is successful, which I'm sure she will be,
Well, then why
because
would
there is automatically an increase in salary, but we don't know what that will be.
So you're talking about whether she gets a pay rise when she completes the course. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes,
Sorry, I don't
That's
want
a separate issue
sorry,
from the one we're talking about today.
and that's
which is the
reason
cost of
why
training.
I'm asking for this to be discussed under confidential
I must
business.
interrupt again. I don't think this is the correct forum to be discussing people
No.
in the third person about matters which
No, I
I think are not. This isn't the correct forum, so that's what I'm saying, and that's why I
This is
said it should go to
the FNO, which
staffing.
is where we discuss finance and ops. And in a recent budget, we allocated funds in the budget for this purpose, for staff training. And this is the first of those requests to release the funds for staff training. Now, I really don't see why anyone should have any problem with that whatsoever.
Well, I proposed it's deferred to staffing. Does anyone want to second that?
That doesn't sound. No. So Cheryl's
No.
proposed that we move it down to out of public.
I can do it. I can do it now. It's resolved on the public session, but it wouldn't get minuted anyway to what you discuss. I can certainly put in the minutes resolved under private session, and we can do that now. But there's nobody here, and what you would discuss, whether it's under private session or whether it's public, it would just say what your decision is. So it doesn't
But
actually
it's been
matter.
recorded.
Yes, being recorded, that's the
So
point.
Well, I can switch the recording off if we're going into private session. But personally, I don't agree with this, and I would personally propose that we accept the recommendation.
Okay, if you want to make that proposal, mate.
Well, but Cheryl's proposal is the first proposal. There's a second.
Well, I will second. I will second that. I will second it goes into confidential session for any further discussion because it's an inappropriate discussion to be having in public.
Right. So do we vote on whether we move it to?
I mean, I wouldn't have said that, but if we've got people who are concerned to that level, then it's not going to do any harm for this meeting. Just
I
to
think
have
it is.
this.
This is a public forum, and if anyone's got a problem with us training our staff, then I don't think that's something we discuss in private. That's something we discuss in public. It's as simple as that. We're not being asked. The clerks have made it very clear that we're not discussing anything here that should be moving into a private session. So I don't understand why you suddenly feel the need to have some sort of secret meeting to discuss something which is a public interest matter. It's training our staff.
We do seem to be going round in circles,
We are going
and we're
in
starting to address
circles.
things that it's not a comfortable situation. So we've got a proposer and a seconder for and one vote for moving it to private discussion. Are we carrying that? So we can carry the same discussion on, but just a little bit later. We vote on that.
It's just in case
Yeah,
of
now.
switching off.
Yes.
Switching off.
Yeah, when we get to it. Right.
It's 4 out of 6.
Yeah, so we'll
That's
move it.
resolved. So turn cameras off, please.
Well, I'd also propose that item is
Yours-
moved to the.
Is that camera off?
I'm going to.
I haven't
Can
got a
I
camera.
finish?
No, is this camera off?
Can I finish my sentence?
Right. Let Gordon finish.
I'm just going to say, right, I'm not trying to be pushy, I'm just saying, can I propose, which against the standing orders, that we move this item to the end of the agenda and it'll be discussed then,
Yeah.
because that's typical. Is that okay?
Yes,
Do we have a
I
second word for
will.
that? Otherwise, we have to go in
Yeah,
and
I'll
out.
second that.
Sorry, I think we're already on the subject. We've already reached the subject. I've already switched the camera off. We've already agreed we're now into a closed session. So let's just get on with it, shall we?
Well, no, I've proposed that we move it to the end of the agenda.
Well, I don't agree. So
Okay,
let's
so
take another vote.
let's have a
This is
vote.
getting absolutely
I'm happy
ridiculous.
to do it now if we're not got the cameras on.
Well, I need to know to switch this off, and I don't trust the technology as well. But I can
Well, we're not
try.
doing it just for the basis of your camera, whether it works or not, are we? It's a bit more important than
I
that.
know, but I don't want to get into trouble.
Well, can you not just switch it off
Well,
with
I
the
can try.
controller?
I can try. Well, hang on a second. Having proposed and it been seconded that we move this to the end of the agenda, is anyone else in favour of simply moving this item to the end of the agenda, which relates to understanding orders? I'm in favour of that. That's normal practice.
Sorry, it's only the chair that can move items.
Standing orders. I think
What
it
follows
says
that?
anyone can move that motion without notice.
I can move without notice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To the end of
It's
the.
normal practice to put confidential items at the end of the
Well,
agenda.
Yeah. Well, I'll take that. So I'll move to the end of the agenda. We'll get the other ones out of the way, and then we'll come back to this because this might take longer.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're moving it to the end. So we'll just defer it to later. I will get back to. So moving item 7 to the end of the meeting. Item 8, review of the asset list and dispose of items. So we've got two lists. We've got a list, first of all, of items I think that are being disposed of. Cameras, laptops, youth club games. And then we've got a full list of assets.
Yes, I have discovered. Obviously, I've come in. I'm fairly new. I've come in. Your asset list should be approved every year by full council. So this is again come here first, and then it will go to full council. Your asset list needs to be approved every year by full council. I have discovered that it wasn't done last year. The asset list I found is at least 2 or 3 years old. It used to be with a company called Pear Technology. Was it Pear Technology? Who you obviously had to pay because they did it all. When the previous staff left, only they had access to pair technology. They wanted to charge quite a considerable amount of money to change all the access codes. So it was stopped. When Paul came on board, he just got an old copy and did a spreadsheet of your asset list, which was done last year. So we have bought the asset module for Realtors, so it is now on Realtors, and obviously I've been through it, and the bits I'm recommending to be removed is stuff you don't have anymore, but I just can't remove them. They have to be formally, it's a bit complicated. They have to be formally approved to be removed. So you've got the asset, so you have a copy of the asset list, and you've got a copy of the disposal of assets that do require removal. It's just stuff you don't have anymore, but they are still on your asset list.
I think that would make sense. I mean, the only thing I would, obviously some of the costings are not right, but we've got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And we've got to have an asset list to be compliant. I mean, obviously the mug is valued at 10,000 and it costs 63,000, so that blatantly depreciated. But it depends what we're valuing and how we're valuing it, whether it's replacement costs or whatever. I mean,
well, council asset lists are strange. They're not depreciated at all. What you buy it at, say you buy it for £500, 10 years, it's still valued at £500 on your asset. It doesn't. It's as the purchase price. It's a strange reason.
Thank you. So I was going to ask why the van is still valued at 7,700.
Because it's not depreciated. It's at your purchase price.
Okay. Do we have any method then of depreciating your assets?
No, not for councils. No.
Okay.
The insurance values obviously goes up and down, but that will be on your insurance policy.
Okay.
but usually, for example, things like the laptops would, well, in fact, you'd normally depreciate those down in 1 year. We can't.
Not on councils, no. It's just.
So what happens if they just stay on the list forever?
If you've got them, they stay on the list at the value you bought them for.
Right. I guess you've got to just actually physically dispose of them.
So this is what I'm at, so you then physically,
Okay. I'm with you.
One question, does this affect our balance sheet then, of these assets being disposed? Does that mean the council
It will affect your AGAR because the figure will be different to last year.
Okay.
And if there's a 15% variance, we have to explain why. So this is why I've done this, and this will go in the file. I don't know what the variance is because I haven't looked at it. But if there's a variance, I can go back and I can send them this and say, this is why the variance, because they've been disposed of.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? No? And that's good, thank you. Then we move on to proposal, item 9, proposal for any recommendations following the final external auditors report for 22-23.
It's brief, isn't it?
It is brief.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing a lot of talking today, and Clark said we shouldn't talk, I'm doing a lot of talking. External auditors go off what your internal auditors write. So if you had a fairly good, I know a lot went wrong, I can't say, but a lot went wrong, but your internal auditor didn't pick that up. The external auditor only sees what the internal auditor writes. And also, and that's why they have the public notice period, so they have questions written. You know, you can write and it costs, but people can write in and ask questions. Obviously, nobody did ask any questions, so they can only go off what the internal auditor has said.
So it's just like a security blanket piece of paper.
Yeah.
It's not.
So what are they actually looking at this? So I've only just found the AGAR thing. So the concern with sections 1 and 2, that's been resolved. Is that right?
Oh no, I've lost my AGAR now. So are you looking at the governance and accounting section?
Basically, I'm just to establish that they're actually now completely happy with the AGAR.
Yes, well, it's all,
Any
yeah,
outstanding issues with that?
they've now, well, this is the final thing. They should have done this by the end of September, but obviously didn't get it till January.
I mean, I'm not surprised that there isn't too much in it, because
Yeah.
obviously 22, 23.
Mhm. So what they're saying in reviews of sections 1 and 2, no matters has come to their attention to cause great concern.
Okay.
And then they've obviously put in italics some of the issues. There were some of the issues because obviously there was no variance because Paul did the variance, and then they were asking me why he'd written this statement. I said, I have no idea because I wasn't the clerk then. I don't know why he wrote certain things. You didn't do a public right notice till I came on board, so that wasn't done. Last year's it wasn't, the external auditors wasn't actually minuted at a meeting, so which is what you're doing now. So there's just little tick boxes that obviously weren't done, but hopefully they are getting done this year.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we're happy with that.
So what do you
Quite good. Don't need to.
So there aren't really any proper
Noted.
to note.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to item 10, grant application. Following the last F&O committee meeting, to note that when speaking to the farmers market, they're happy for the grant application to be discussed at the next round of grant applications, which is in July.
Great.
Okay. Yeah, good. Does that mean all grant applications are discussed in July?
The ones that come in.
When we get them in now?
No, there will be a press release or something to go out at the beginning of May, to giving people a month to get their grant applications in, and then it will all come. You may need a separate meeting, depending how many you get in, and then it will go to your July meeting. But we need to get the word out, because
Yes.
people don't yet realise it's only in 2 tranches.
Okay, good. So we'll move now to a private session to go back to item 7.
Sorry, I'm just a sentence behind.
Sorry.
There's item 11. You need to...
Now, item 11, do we do that first?
No, that's right at the end.
We'll do that. Nothing else.
Oh, that's where my thing's on. That's right at the end.